We are here to make a new type of news.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Making news just for you. It's Tuesday, March 12th here in Seoul. I'm Song Yujin filling in for Shin Yeon, and you're watching News Generation. Joining me in the studio is Jessica Dainha.
Happy Tuesday,
Happy Tuesday! And Park Ji-yoon.
Good morning.
Now both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. As usual, we're going to start with our news feed, which covers different hashtags and news items that have been trending on social media over the past 24 hours. We start in Dubai, where cleanup operations are underway after relentless rainfall over the weekend. No casualties have been reported yet, but the downpour resulted in flooding and flight disruptions at Dubai International Airport, one of the busiest airports in the world. The city received nearly 60 millimeters of rain, which is half of its average annual precipitation. Shifting gears, can you guess which app was downloaded most worldwide last year? It's Instagram. According to US market intelligence firm Sensor Tower, Instagram's total number of downloads last year was 768 million, up 20% from the year before. Now, this surpassed its biggest competitor, TikTok, which secured the second spot with 733 million downloads. Finally, back here in Korea, it seems like Seoul's Seongsu-dong area has emerged as a new go-to spot for tourists visiting the country. Data from one domestic card company showed a significant surge in sales from businesses in the area last year, a 1,071% increase compared to 2019. The region also saw tourists from a wide variety of places, witnessing a rise in visitors from Hong Kong, Taiwan, and the United States. So Seongsu-dong area is seeing skyrocketing sales and more visitors from around the world. So I want to also ask you guys, do you also enjoy hanging out at Seongsu-dong, and what do you think makes this area this much popular these days?
I've been to Seongsu a couple of times because I wanted to be cool and be like a hipster. Sorry, that was not cool, I know.
It was not hip.
That was so not cool. Anyway, but you know, there are many dessert cafes,
Right.
road shops, museums, pop-up stores, and a lot of fancy like small restaurants
Right.
that's worthy of, you know, uploading on social
Yeah,
media as well.
Instagrammable.
But believe it or not, this Seongsu-dong area used to be just like full of factories and just warehouses.
Right.
So there was nothing there. But now I think a lot of pop-up stores use those factories as like interior and, you know, for different events as well. And, you know, even my uncle owns like a Korean shaved 팥빙수, shaved ice cafe in Seongsu-dong. Is very popular. A lot of people know. I'm sure you guys know as well what that place is.
Can we be friends now?
I thought we were already friends.
Like really good friends?
Anyway, yeah, let's be friends. Yeah. There's also Seoul-sup, Seoul Forest.
Right.
So it's close to nature as well. And also there are many different like luxury apartments where a lot of celebrities live. So it's really close to Gangnam as well.
Right,
so I think many MZs flock to this area from Garoskil or Gangnam area because it's like the new hip place to go after
new go-to
Hongdae.
spot.
Yeah, so I think that's why a lot of people go there.
Right, so this area definitely has a lot to offer. What are your thoughts on this, Cheska?
I'm a really frequent visitor of Seongsu-dong, and also here at News Gen, Walter and Yeon and I actually visited
I remember.
Seongsu, and we did a whole tour.
Right.
And one of the amazing things, personally for me and the girls, there's so many great delicacies and
they have the
dessert
best
cafes,
dessert cafes.
including now that I know Ki-hoon's traditional shaved ice cafe.
We should visit there sometime soon.
should totally go.
Anytime.
And one of the things that I did notice when you mentioned the newsfeed today is that I have actually seen a growing number of international tourists that I would come across when I went to Seongsu or go to these cafes. And surprisingly, these tourists actually know better than I do because they're always searching on what's popular on the gram and on the social media. So it really seems that social media helped this Seoul, Brooklyn kind of flourish in a more international and diverse way. Yeah.
Right. So if you haven't been to Seongsu-dong, but if you have plans to travel to Korea or Seoul, why not check out Seongsu-dong real soon? And that was our news feed for this Tuesday. So we're now going to move on to our main discussion topic of the day. A quick question for all of you guys who are tuning in. Are you watching us on TV or through your phones? Because if it's your phone, today's topic might catch your interest even more. Let's first listen to my AI voice secretary.
These days, it's quite hard to imagine life without streaming services. A recent report from the Korea Culture and Tourism Institute revealed that adults in Korea spend over 3 hours a day on cultural content, which includes videos, webtoons, music, and books. Out of them, YouTube and streaming services were the most popular. Another survey showed that in January, Koreans spend over 40 hours a month on YouTube for the first time. What's driving this enthusiasm for online video content, and is there anything we should bear in mind?
So personally, I'm really excited about today's topic because I'm that kind of person who subscribes to every single, almost every single available streaming service or OTTs that we call here in Korea that's available in Korea. So I'm really excited about today's topic. So I want to ask you guys, do you also use these services often? And what is your go-to video content on these platforms?
I think it's great that you and I are sitting next to each other because I'm completely the opposite. I only subscribe to very small number, but only because my favorite things are documentaries and I love sitcoms. So we're talking about like Friends, How I Met Your Mother. I'm sure there are people out there who are reacting to these names. The Office, the all-time favorite. But unfortunately, because these are not all in the same OTT platform, I sort of just gave up and decided, you know what, I'm going to put certain limitations and restrictions on myself to make sure that I'm not hooked on every single one of them.
Unlike me.
Because it's impossible to get everything you like. And as we will talk further, I think our generation definitely loves to subscribe to different platforms and spend time on there.
So documentaries and sitcoms for Cheska. What about you, Gyun?
I think I'm on YouTube most of the time. I'm just here to watch, and of course, like because of the algorithm, it just makes me keep clicking until I realize that I'm watching something that's totally unrelated to what I wanted to watch like 10 minutes ago. So, anyway, and I also started appearing in Walter's YouTube channel. He's also our regular guest here in Newsstand. And I hate to admit it, I just constantly click the same video to check how many views it has and like read the comments for any kind of feedback. But anyway, I've said many times on the show, I try to refrain myself from just spending too much time on the screen. But like I said, it's very addictive. And I've become many MZers who are into all these different OTT platforms. So in terms of, Netflix or Disney Plus, I am benefiting off my good friends who are sharing their accounts.
That's true.
Thank you to all my friends out there. And I tend to watch a lot of international documentary, sports-related documentaries, and also like variety shows like Physical 100. Season 2 is coming out, I think, next week, so I'm definitely looking forward to that one.
So based on how excited we are and based on our conversation, I think it seems that our generation, Millennials and Gen Zs, are active users of streaming services. So Cheska, are there any stats to back this statement up?
Absolutely. I mean, given that even here in the studio, the first kind of morning greeting is like, hey, did you see that on? So I think it's only possible that there are many MZers who are kind of looking for the new and upcoming contents on OTT. So let's take a look at the screen to find out the actual figure. Now, according to a survey done by Korea Communications Commission last year, 3 out of 4 MZers are watching content on OTT platforms. That's about 75%, right? As we mentioned earlier, people usually subscribe to more than one OTT platform these days. And as for the hours that were spent, a different survey was conducted for about 2,000 people up to the age of 64 of age, and 30% of their content hours were spent on YouTube, as Kyun mentioned. Now, especially when it comes to YouTube, the hours almost more than doubled since 2019, going from an average of 21 hours per person monthly to over 40 hours per person. And this is the very first time that the hours actually surpassed 40.
So we're seeing a record watching hours in terms of streaming services here in Korea. So what do you think are some of the reasons behind this?
Kyun, there's a lot of thoughts going on in your
I was just thinking, if I studied 40 hours every month, I would not be here. I'll be somewhere else.
You would have written a paper on something at least.
On addiction. Anyway, so I think the biggest advantage of OTT platforms is that we can watch our favorite dramas and movies anywhere, like whenever, wherever we want. So even for those who don't have time, YouTube offers like recap videos of the favorite, the popular drama series.
The summaries.
Exactly. So it keeps you engaged in this kind of streaming platform. And not only for entertainment purposes, many youngsters get their news from these kind of OTT services, especially YouTube. And, TV news channels, including Arirang TV, have their own YouTube channels. So we can have easy, quick access to breaking news.
Right, so it's definitely a thing among our generation. But I want to point out that we're all aware that going overboard with anything has its downsides. So kind of shifting the mood, what are some things we should be mindful of when logging into these streaming services?
I think you said it perfectly. Like anything in moderation is good, but when it goes overboard, I think that's when it becomes a bit harmful. And especially when it comes to these contents, some of them possess qualities that make it so easy to be addictive. And I call them the 3 A's: the accessibility, the affordability, and administration, which is lack thereof on the content streaming sites. Now, people don't watch TVs anymore because we've lost basically the ability to wait.
Right.
And it has to be like immediate and fast and quick. And also the monthly subscription fees is under $20, which allows you to have unlimited access to all kinds of content.
Right.
So you never run out of things to watch. And especially when you have put a certain amount of money in it, you kind of want to get the most out of it.
Right.
So you start binging or try to watch something that you wouldn't watch if it was on TV on a normal basis. Now, lastly, the range of contents vary. I mean, there are documentaries and educational contents, but actually some very graphic and violent and even adult content that you can get an easy and fast accessibility to because there are basically no regulation or administration, which does cause some serious problems.
Right, so there are certainly things to keep in mind of when we're subscribing to these services. What are your thoughts on this, Kyun?
Another downside could be the spread of short form videos.
Definitely.
Some people say it's almost like a drug because it's really addictive. People get used to watching these short, catchy, stimulating clips that, subconsciously makes you flick through, the next one until you cannot stop, like Pringles. And just like what Cheska mentioned, our phones, it's just become like a part of our body now. We cannot live without it. It's always, in our hands. Yes. So because of the easy accessibility, I think we also have the freedom of, looking at it whenever we want without any kind of restriction or administration. So, even some experts say, phone addiction is actually more serious than drug addiction.
Right.
So it is definitely a serious behavior that has, side effects and bad sides to it, unless we can actually control it. But a lot of adults these days, including obviously children, we don't have that control over our behavior. So I think it's something that we really need to tackle.
So talking about how serious of a problem this could be, I've heard that actually binge watching nonstop on these services or videos can actually damage your brain.
Yeah, and it has been proven multiple times over and over. And there's a great read called Dopamination by Dr. Anna Lemke, a psychiatrist specializing in addiction. And because the pain and pleasure are activated in the same part of the brain, meaning the higher we become addicted to these pleasure stimulating and pleasure, our brain will try to balance it even harder by bringing the pleasure state down, which actually at some point causes us to feel a heavy withdrawal when we don't get that kind of heavy stimulus from, as Kyun mentioned, short form contents or something that gives us that quick feedback of pleasure. And it actually, in the end, actually alters the state of our brain to the point where no amount of pleasure stimulating content gives us the same amount of high that we felt. And then people go into addictive mode. And there's also a term called popcorn brain, coined by Professor David Levy, where our brain gets so overstimulated and used to the quick, short, and impulsive stimulus that we're unable to focus and keep looking for the quote-unquote next pop stimulus, like a popcorn.
So definitely some risks coming along with streaming addiction. We're going to talk about this in our discussion with the expert, but now we also asked our viewers how long they watch videos on streaming services each day, and here's what 3 of them had to say. So if we look at the comments, let's look at the comments. It says, Sage says, I usually just keep all my videos in the watch later playlist and go through them throughout the day. We're talking 3 to 6 hours of content depending on the day. Benny says, for OTT services like Netflix, we usually watch for 2 to 4 hours, while on YouTube, I watch maybe 3 to 4 hours and maybe more because of listening to the radio. Leon says, it really depends on what new content is available to watch and if I'm interested in it, but I typically spend about 3 hours a day on OTT platforms, including YouTube. So looking at the comments of our viewers, we can actually see that millennials and Gen Zs around the world are also spending about 3 hours a day on these streaming services. So this is actually a thing among our generation. So for more on this, we're now going to invite a psychological expert into our talks. We'll be right back, so stay tuned. So today we're joined by Dr. Lee Jung-kyung, a therapist at the Hope and Wellness Center in Bucheon. Welcome, Dr. Lee, to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me today.
Thank you for joining us. So first of all, we've been talking about this in our discussion before, but how serious actually is the problem of millennials and Gen Zs being addicted to streaming services?
The addiction of MZ generations to digital content, particularly YouTube and streaming services, leads to various interconnected problems. Firstly, excessive consumption of digital content diminishes productivity as individuals prioritize it over work, study, or socializing. Research shows that individuals in their 20s are among the highest consumers of YouTube content. Secondly, prolonged screen time negatively affects physical health, causing issues like eye strain, headaches, sleep disturbances, and impaired cognitive function. Thirdly, digital content addiction contributes to mental health problems such as decreased self-esteem and feelings of depression and anxiety. Recent research has even reported an increase in ADHD diagnoses among the Korean MZ generations due to excessive consumption of digital content. Lastly, over-reliance on digital content can reduce face-to-face interactions, impairing the development of social skills and potentially hindering individuals' ability to form meaningful relations. These issues highlight the detrimental impact of excessive digital content consumption on productivity, physical and mental health, and social interactions among MZ generations.
Dr. Lee, you've given us really good tips and topics on why MZers are more at risk, but could you give us one particular characteristic of our generation that makes them especially more vulnerable to being addicted to these kind of contents?
Yes. The MZ generations face unique challenges when it comes to addiction to YouTube and streaming services. Considering their developmental stage, they are typically in a critical phase of development, such as establishing self-identity and forming meaningful connections with others. Therefore, becoming addicted to digital content during these formative years can pose a greater risk of self-confusion and isolation than for older generations. Additionally, MZ generations encounter unique stressors, including economic uncertainty, academic pressure, and social challenges. As digital content provides instant gratification and temporary relief from stressors, they may easily depend on these platforms as a coping mechanism to escape their stressors. This behavior escalates the likelihood of developing compulsive viewing habits.
Dr. Lee, could you give us just one good advice on healthy, proper ways to consume video content?
Okay. In light of the increasing recognition of digital content addiction among the MZ generations, practicing digital detoxing is becoming a popular trend. It's a good news. Intentionally disconnecting from digital devices can be helpful in preventing excessive screen time. So I'd like to give some advice. First, recognize your media usage patterns and their negative effects on your life. Second, set limits on screen time, utilizing specific time constraints and screen time tracking tools. And third, schedule designated time slots for watching video content rather than indulging passively. Lastly, practice mindful watching, being aware of your reasons for consuming content and avoiding, mindless scrolling and binge watching.
Right. So some great tips here. Thank you so much, Dr. Lee, for your time today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So Dr. Lee, she really gave some valuable tips on ways to prevent ourselves from streaming addiction. But I want to ask you guys also, let's keep it short and sweet. What are some tips that you would like to give?
One other thing that I think we should definitely do is she mentioned, I think, is self-binding. So we put restrictions on some of the things that we do.
You can do that.
Yeah, for me, I disabled all updates on YouTube. So when I log in, it's a completely blank page. So no algorithm and no stimulus whatsoever. And actually that takes a huge toll off. Because I have to literally put in what to watch. And that kind of step actually just enables you to click the first thing that pops up. So that's the first thing. Yeah.
Some really useful advice here. And what about you, Gyun?
You know, I think smartphones have become a necessity to everyone in this world, including children as well. But I actually had to spend one day without a phone because I left it at home and I had to go to work.
Digital detoxing.
Yeah, it was like I was forced to.
Forced. Unintentional.
Forced digital detox, unintentional. But at first I did have withdrawal symptoms. You know, I was panicking. I'm like, where's my phone? I need to check my phone. But after a while, I gradually just got used to not having a phone, and I found so much inner peace. You know, I would actually, you know, look at people, communicate in a better way. I was able to focus better. I was more energized, and I think I just got all the, you know, advantages of not living a day without a phone, and realize, hey, there are so many benefits and good sides. Because you know, I grew up without a phone, and I was able to live a happy life.
Me too. Me too.
I am happy now. But
like there's a world outside of our screens,
exactly,
basically.
that's what I mean. So if you try it just once, you'll realize, oh, there are better things to life than just being on your phone or being on these OTT platforms. Look, they are very entertaining, but I'm saying there are better things other than OTT platforms.
I completely agree.
Right. So hope our discussion today could help our viewers consume or use streaming services in the healthiest way. Now, in the meantime, NewsGen will be here every day from 9:30 to 10 a.m. Korea time, bringing you more topics young people are talking about. Special thanks to Cheska Dainha.
Pleasure's always mine. Thank you.
And Park Ki-hoon.
Thanks for having me.
And this was Hong Yoo-jin filling in for Shin Yeon. Thank you everyone so much for watching. Yeon will be back in the studio tomorrow. We are News Generation.